4 questions I asked for this documentary were: 1, what is your opinion on the protest?
I think that it has come to symbolize something that was not the intention of what the kneeling was, and has come to embody a larger protest in and of itself, but I don't see anything technically wrong with it for me.
I think it's a very justified protest due to recent events in American pop culture and just things happening around the world. I think it's a thing that's being done the right way. It's not violent, and it gets messages across without being too distracting or anything like that. So I think it's justified.
I think it's a great way for athletes, not only African American athletes, but it's white athletes and football players to use their platform and use their the degree where they at in society to bring awareness to the situation of injustice that we have going on in the United States. So I think it's helpful, and I think it's definitely doing its job, and it's bringing awareness to it. So
I think that everyone's free to express themselves however they choose. Honestly, in the past, people have had to protest in certain ways. I think back to like Martin Luther King Jr. He had a method of civil disobedience that was nonviolent, which was a way for him to protest. And so in some way, shape, or form, I think that if you protest in a way that doesn't harm anyone, you're okay. Everyone should be able to express themselves the way that they choose, especially in ways that don't harm other people. And as far as I'm concerned, this does not physically harm anyone.
2, do you think President Trump was justified in saying athletes who kneel should be fired?
I don't think that it is in his job to necessarily say who or what should be acceptable, or like if players should be fired based on their actions. It's not his call per se. It's like it takes that issue into a different context when he says his opinion on that national platform.
I do not. I don't think he's justified because they're going about it the right way. As Americans, we have the right to protest. That's something that we've always had as a right as a citizen in the United States, and the peaceful protest, and that's a peaceful protest. There's one way to go about it where you loot and riot and things like that, and then there's one way where you go about it and you do it the peaceful way, you do it the respectful way with getting your message across. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. And to say that those athletes need to be fired for using their platform to peacefully protest and bring awareness, I don't think he's justified.
I don't think that should be a statement that he's giving. I don't think that's the right thing to do. As American, living in the United States, we have freedom of speech and freedom to protest, and I definitely feel like this protest is nonviolent, and they're just trying to bring awareness to situations that's happening in the United States. And it seems like every time somebody does that, they get overshadowed by high powers or somebody wanting to diminish their power, and I definitely think that's wrong. So
3, what does this protest mean to you?
I still think it is just sort of them non-verbally saying that they can't basically do the national anthem and stand and place their hands over their hearts because they don't feel like they're adequately represented or protected in the country. And I think that's still basically what it stands for, at least I think. But I feel like a lot of different groups or messages are trying to tie themselves to that one just act of kneeling during the national anthem. But to me, it sort of just represents that, hey, we're not okay with the status quo, and that this systematic oppression throughout our nation's history needs to be addressed at some point.
Protest means to me, well, for one, being black, it means something to me because that's what it's aimed towards as of right now. Just the situation with minorities and African Americans being killed, and bringing justice to those individuals who are being killed, and it's my people in numbers. So I think that's one reason it hits home with me, because it brings awareness to that, and for people to disrespect and shoot it down, even though it's being done the right way. kind of hurts. Another thing for me is being in the military. So like that's kind of like people think it's very disrespectful towards the military and people who sacrifice and fight for those colors. I don't see it that way, because that's kind of what we fight for, is to protect those rights of the citizens, for us and the people we love, and the right to protest and speak freely is one of those rights. So that's kind of what I fight for. So I think that's where it hit home for me.
I mean, I think Colin Kaepernick is protesting it's obviously protesting police brutality against African Americans. I don't think it's meant to disrespect really any part of this country, but I understand how it can be perceived that way, and so it's kind of a tough situation where he's meaning one thing, a lot of people are interpreting it in multiple different ways, and things get lost in translation. So it's definitely caused a lot of controversy and chaos, and I've seen he's been doing stuff to remedy the problem that he sees there is. So more power to him.
And 4, does this protest affect you, and if so, how?
It doesn't, not to me. I don't watch a lot of football, so I only really get it from friends who've talked about it, or if I read it on like a Facebook or a news article or anything. So it doesn't directly impact my life, but especially doing the respect talk about it, I led that class discussion, so it was good to get other people's point of views on it, because I didn't really know a whole lot going into it.
I'd say the protest does affect me. Like I said, that's what we fight for as United States Army servicemen and women. That's what we fight for: the rights of our people, the rights of the common level of life, or some term like that. But I think that's what we fight for. So it does affect me, because I want to know that what I'm fighting for is being held. People are being held accountable to give those people those rights. So that's how it affects me, that I go out here and say I risk my life to preserve those rights for people, but the president per se or people are trying to take those rights away. That's the way it affects me.
It means a lot to me, because I'm a black male living in the United States of America, and I go to West Point, and if I get stopped by the police, my hands ought to be on the steering wheel, and I have to communicate effectively everything I do in the car and outside the car for my life. I had to do that before, and I still feel like I have to do that now. And I feel like these athletes are definitely showing their care for the situation, and that's what it means to me. Also, being in the military as well. A lot of people in the military say where they're kneeling and doing the national anthem, and I fight for this country. And like a lot of people I talk to in the military, breaking from colonels down, they don't see it as that way. They don't see that they're disrespecting America. They're not spitting on the flag. They're not burning the flag. They're kneeling for a purpose and for a cause. So that's what it means to me.